In one afternoon, a school teacher took a room full of gentle 8-year-olds and turned half of them into bullies. She didn't yell.
She didn't punish anyone. She changed one sentence about who they were, and within minutes, children were turning on the friends they had eaten lunch with that morning. By recess, a boy was calling his best friend a name. By the end of the day, that friend believed it. She did it with nothing but the color of their eyes. This is Riceville, Iowa, 1968. A small farming town, almost entirely white, where most children had never met a single black person. They had only seen them on a television screen, far away, like weather happening to somebody else. On the 4th of April, that distance collapsed. Martin Luther King Jr. was shot on a motel balcony in Memphis. And the next morning, a third-grade teacher named Jane Elliott walked into her classroom and found her students confused. They had heard the word assassinated. They had seen the grief on the news, but they could not understand it. Why would anyone kill a man for the color of his skin? To them, it made no sense at all. Elliott realized something uncomfortable. She could stand at the front of the room and explain prejudice for an hour. They would nod. They would forget. You cannot lecture a child into understanding cruelty they have never felt. So she decided she would not explain it to them. She would make them live it. The next morning, she told her class they were going to find out what it really feels like to be judged by something you were born with, something you cannot change. And then she divided them. Not by skin, by eyes. Blue-eyed people, she told them, are smarter than brown-eyed people. They are cleaner. They are better behaved. They are simply better. The children laughed at first. It sounded like a game. So she gave them a reason that sounded like science. The same chemical that colors your eyes, she said, melanin, is linked to intelligence. Blue-eyed people have more of it the right way. It was nonsense. It was completely invented. But it came from a teacher, an adult, an authority standing at the front of the room, and so, to an 8-year-old, it became true. Then she made it real. The blue-eyed children, she announced, were the superior group. They would get 5 extra minutes of recess. They would go first in the lunch line, and they could have second helpings. They could drink straight from the fountain. The brown-eyed children would wait. They would use paper cups. They would not play with the blue-eyed children on the playground. And to make sure everyone could tell at a glance who was who, she tied a cloth collar around the neck of every brown-eyed child, a mark. A label you could see from across the room. Then she stepped back, and she watched how fast it worked. It did not take a day. It took minutes. The blue-eyed children, the same children who, an hour earlier, had been ordinary, kind, unremarkable kids, began to sit up straighter. They grew louder. They started to police the others. They volunteered eagerly to enforce the rules. Who was out of line? Who broke which restriction? Who deserved to be punished? They became, in front of her eyes, arrogant and sharp and a little bit cruel, and the brown-eyed children collapsed inward. They went quiet. They hunched in their chairs. On the playground, a blue-eyed boy and a brown-eyed boy who had been close friends got into a fight because the blue-eyed one had called the other brown eyes and made it sound like the worst thing you could call a person. When Elliott asked him why he'd said it, he answered as if it were obvious, because he is a brown eyes. A child who could not hurt a friend that morning could hurt him by lunchtime. Nothing about either boy had changed. Only what they had been told about each other. And then came the part that should genuinely unsettle you. It didn't just change how the children treated each other. It changed what they could do. Elliott ran the class through a stack of phonics cards, a simple timed drill they did all the time. On the day they were superior, The blue-eyed children flew through the deck, faster than they ever had. On the day they were inferior, those exact same children, same brains, same cards, fumbled, slowed, and failed. One girl who had always been a strong reader suddenly couldn't get through the pack. When Elliott asked what was different, the children themselves had the answer. When you're wearing the collar, you can't stop thinking about the collar. Tell a child they are less, and they will become less, not because it is true, but because a part of them quietly agrees to it. The label gets inside. It rewrites the score. The next day, Jane Elliott walked in and told the class she had made a mistake. She had had it backwards. It was the brown-eyed people who were superior all along, and the collars changed necks. Now the brown-eyed children rose up, relieved, vengeful, suddenly powerful, and the blue-eyed children sank into the chairs they had been ruling the day before. The cruelty did not soften because the children had felt it from the bottom. It simply flipped. The ones who had just learned exactly how much it hurt picked up the same weapon and used it on the others. That is the detail people skip past. Knowing how it feels to be the victim did not make them kind. It made them efficient. At the end, she took the collars off, and the room broke open. Children hugged. Some cried. They described the day they spent at the bottom as feeling like a dog on a leash, like garbage, like something small. And then they went back to being friends, as if a fever had passed. But the town did not forgive Jane Elliott. Parents were furious that she had run an experiment on white children. Her own kids were harassed at school. The family coffee shop lost business. For years, she was an outsider in her own community for the crime of showing children a mirror. She kept doing it anyway. The 1970 class was filmed for a documentary called Eye of the Storm, and years later in A Class Divided, those same students came back as adults, and they still remembered the exact feeling of the collar, decades on. Elliott would spend the rest of her life running the same exercise on grown adults who, it turned out, broke in precisely the same way the children did. Now, here is where we have to be honest with you. This was not a controlled scientific experiment. There was no control group, no peer review, no careful statistics. It was a teacher in a classroom, running a demonstration on children, and people have argued fairly about whether that was ethical at all. But sit with this, because it is the most disturbing part. It did not need a laboratory. It did not need careful conditions or trained actors or a fake prison. It worked on a normal Tuesday, in a normal town, on normal children, with nothing but a confident adult and a single made-up sentence about who was better. That is the thread that ties this room to Milgram's shocks, to Ash's lines, to the guards at Stanford. Prejudice is not something we are slowly, carefully reasoned into. It can be installed in an afternoon by someone with authority, the moment we are handed a group to look down on and a reason to believe we deserve to. So before you decide you would have been different, ask yourself the honest question. The judgments you carry right now about who is smart, who is lazy, who is dangerous, who is less, did you actually reason your way to a single one of them? Or did someone, somewhere, some ordinary afternoon simply tie a collar around a group and tell you they deserved it? A teacher changed one sentence about who these children were. And by the end of the day, they had turned on their friends and believed it was fair. How sure are you that no one ever did the same thing to you?